Next, from the University of Illinois at Springfield, Lieutenant Governor Shelia Simon talks to reporters about the administration's desire to increase the percentage of college-educated citizens in Illinois. She also talks about the need to keep the cost of college education from rising. This runs about 15 minutes.
Thank you very much, everyone, particularly students, for being here today. I'm Shelia Simon, and I'm visiting all the public four-year colleges and universities across the state to emphasize the need to make college affordable. It's a tough request, particularly in an era where the state has zero extra money to be spending. So we have to be really careful about how we use our resources, how we make the best use of combining federal resources, state resources, and university resources. And I was just had the pleasure to meet with all these students who are packaging it together in an amazing way with lots of challenges, getting grants, getting loans, work-study jobs, and off-campus jobs in addition. I don't know how all of them are sleeping because there's not enough hours. I suppose there's a lot more Pepsi and Mountain Dew to keep you going. But anyway, we're working on a couple of things from the state end of operations to try and, within the money that we have, use it as efficiently as possible. One of those is MAP grants, which is a funding provided to students by the state of Illinois who are in financial need. We're lucky to be in the state of Illinois because not every state has a system like MAP grants, but unfortunately the MAP grant money doesn't go as far as it used to. And as we have more and more competition for MAP grants, the deadline for application gets earlier and earlier every year, and unfortunately cutting off some people because they don't meet that deadline, right? Which has had some impact just in this group of students. I'm a part of a MAP task force that's looking at how we might better prioritize that amount of money that we have for MAP grants to make sure that it really does get to students who are in need. The other thing we're looking at is a college choice report that will provide something like a standardized label like we have on soda cans and bags of chips that would say, here's how much college is going to cost, so that from one institution you can compare figures that are similar. Tuition, fees, room and board. Make sure that you're making a sound decision when you're first looking at what kind of colleges you're going to apply to, and know what you're jumping into, and know that you should treat it pretty seriously, right? So we're looking at that. Also concerned about what's currently a federal issue and involved in the national campaign, and that's the American Opportunity Tax Credit, which allows for up to $2,000 of a tax credit for money spent on college tuition. And that's another important part of putting all of this together to make sure that we are still a land of opportunity where you can make of yourself what you can based on your talent and not have lack of financial ability stand in your way. So we've got a great group of students here, and we've asked Nakira to be able to talk just a little bit about her experience. And she's one of the people who I don't know when she sleeps, because you have a work-study job and an off-campus job at Walgreens and 18 hours of classes. So speak quickly and then get back to studying, right?
Yeah.
Here, Nakira, why don't you give a few comments?
Okay, well, my name is Nakira. I am now a sophomore. I have been granted to work with the financial aid department, which is my federal work-study job. But unfortunately, that doesn't cover all the costs more so. With the cost of tuition and everything going up, with the MAP grant possibly getting decreased, I took another job at Walgreens part-time. So having 18 credit hours and working 40 hours a week is very, very complicated. I am a first-time generation student. My parent is unemployed at the moment, so whatever she makes, possibly, she tries to help, but it's not really that much of a help considering it was very high. So if the MAP grant was to be decreased, it'll possibly ruin a lot of students' opportunities to continue bettering themselves as getting an education, because that is like one of the main focuses that students actually have in order to continue their education. So that's my major concern about everything.
I like that. Nakira, well done. Thank you. All right. Any questions from anyone? If they're really hard, I'll have Nakira answer them.
What more can be done about MAP grants? I mean, we've been talking about this for a long time.
Yeah.
Where are you going to find the money?
Yeah, obviously there are a couple of questions involved in MAP grants. One is how much money goes into that pool of MAP grants, and that's something that the governor and I have consistently fought to maintain, at least at its flat level. And a lot of students have been involved in advocating for that as well, and they've had a big impact. When you talk with legislators, they can often tell you about folks from their district who they've met with and what the MAP grant meant to them as individual students. But even within that level of MAP grant funding, even if we're not adding anything to the MAP grant pool, I think we can do a better job of saying who gets the MAP grant and targeting that more closely to need. Last year, the deadline was in early March, and when we were talking about documents that you have to get together to put in your application, one of them is your W-2, which can come as late as the end of January, and I don't know too many families who can get all of their tax documents done way before April 15th. So the earlier and earlier deadline sort of inserts an artificial qualification for MAP grants that I don't think is necessarily related to need, and I don't think targets our aid any better than it was before. Yes?
The Chancellor recently remarked that with the decrease in state funding, that UIS seems nearly like a private institution by now. Do you think this makes people question Illinois' commitment to higher education?
I think it reinforces my desire to help spread the word about the importance of our investment in higher education, because I think you're exactly right to be asking those questions. When we look at the future of what we want to look like as a state, about particularly employment in our state, we know that there's going to be an increasing need for people with college credentials in the workplace. You know, when I was a kid, we talked about competing against Indiana. Now we need to be able to compete against India. Competition is global for our jobs. We have decided as a state that we want to have 60% of our working age population to have a college credential by the year 2025 to put us in that position of global competitiveness. And we can't do that unless we make sure that higher education is accessible, unless we make sure that it's not reserved for the privileged, that it's available to everyone, and that as a tool for economic development, if nothing else, that we make sure we continue to invest in public higher education.
If I could follow up on that, in the state's decrease in funding is one of the chief drivers of tuition increases. Has the state abdicated its role in funding state universities?
The state is certainly not doing as much as it used to, and we have to look at future budget fights that are coming up. We know that our budget is getting pinched more and more, and we know that we're going to have even more resolve and even more folks on the side of investing in education to be able to maintain just the current levels, which, as you point out, are not serving us well.
In your experience touring the state institutions, what was your impression of the students that you met, and how engaged they are, how concerned they are?
I have to say I've met at each campus so far with administrators, faculty, staff, and students. And I love everyone. And of course, I come from a university background before my current job, so I really enjoy being on campus. But in every case, it's the students who are the most inspiring. It's the students who are sacrificing so much of themselves because they see that investment in higher education in their future. I think that's been very energizing for me, and I hope to be able to share that around the state.
You know, there has been this argument out there, maybe not everyone should go to college. You know, we still need electricians, you can't outsource plumbers, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. What's your response to that as you seek to get more people?
Yeah, that's an important question to ask, and I think the answer to that is make sure that you're not having an old-fashioned image of college when you think that way. Because there's certainly people getting degrees in philosophy in ivy-covered institutions across the country, But there's also folks who are getting college degrees in community colleges. And when we talk about those college credentials, I'm talking about a 4-year degree, 2-year degree, and certificates from community colleges that make you more valuable in the workplace. Community colleges in particular are open-door institutions. They're to meet the student at their level of skill and ability and ready to add value to what they bring to the marketplace. So if someone tells you that you're not college material, don't take them at their word. There's a lot of college opportunities available that can help us to move towards, right now in the state of Illinois we have, it's hard to get exact figures, but somewhere between 100,000 and 150,000 unmet jobs. Unfilled jobs, not because they were just posted or just advertised, but because there's not folks available with the skills that are needed to meet that job. Higher education is what is going to narrow that gap, and in a state with unacceptably high unemployment, higher education is what helps us to get more people in a good, productive situation.
Increased tuition nationwide is an issue. It's increasing at a rate faster than inflation. How much would you say the colleges themselves have to do with the increase in the prices? Is there anything that they can do to help to control the cost that the future students are going to see?
Yeah, I've been asking that at all the schools, and the public institutions in Illinois are going out of their way to make sure that they're redirecting funds towards additional scholarships, grants, loan opportunities, emergency loan opportunities. It's not a question, I think, of trimming away waste, because I think, boy, the budgets are so tight that public higher education institutions are run on a real narrow margin as it is. So I think they're doing what they can to keep those tuition levels as low as possible, because they understand that's how they keep going. That's how we get to that end product of lots of people not just entering the college, but walking across the stage at graduation with that degree in hand. I think we have to be looking for opportunities also for how we can use technology. And the term I learned just yesterday was massive online courses, MOOCs, where in large quantity people can learn something in a global way. And whether we want to look into granting credit where you can pass a proficiency exam at the end of that experience, no matter where you get it, whether it's in a classroom here at a university or online through something that Harvard offers for free. We need to make sure that we're taking advantage of those opportunities to recognize academic success and academic achievement. I think we also, though, have to be careful not to move too far in the direction of part-time employees for faculty, because I think then we sacrifice some of that benefit of the in-person experience in higher education.
Yeah, I mean, if that type of technology continues to take off, will there be less of a need for an in-person educational experience?
I think what we can do is find the best way to mix in-person and online. I think when online classes first started, teachers would regard that as, well, this is an online course or this is an in-person course. Now colleges frequently use the term a hybrid course. My husband and I have 2 daughters, both in college, and I think that's what they just call a course. They expect most of their courses to have some in-person component and some online component, and find the best mix that works for teaching whatever that subject is. All right, we got more things to do, so thank you very much.
You're watching the Illinois Channel, an independent nonprofit corporation formed to provide gavel-to-gavel coverage of Illinois state government and other public affairs events taking place across Illinois.